Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Robert Sports Show. I'm your host, Robert. Major League Baseball scandals. Gamblers, cheaters, and drug addicts and all date back in baseball from the beginning. Some of the bigger scandals in baseball from 1887 through 2015. It's just amazing the things that doing the research here that I came across that we look at baseball today going, well, the steroids really wasn't the biggest scandal in the history of baseball. The one thing that baseball has done throughout the years, controversy creates cash. The more controversy that there is, the more cash that Major League Baseball makes, the owners make, the players make. But it seems like when people start looking into it, that's when Major League Baseball goes, whoop, whoop, it's all the players. Back in 1877, there was two teams because of a conspiracy. The Louisville Grays and the St. Louis Brown Stockings were throwing games in exchange for bribes from gamblers. It was never completely proven that this was going on, but both teams were dropped out of baseball within 2 years of the conspiracy. 1908, there was a bribery attempt on the eve of a makeup game between the Chicago Cubs and the New York Giants that would decide the NL Championship. An umpire refused an attempted bribe and intended to help the Giants win. The Giants ended up losing to the Cubs after the inquiry. Giants team position for 1908 was reported the culprit and banned for life. So, gambling on baseball and all this date back to the turn of the century. There's nothing new. 1914, the Boston Braves swept the Philadelphia A's in 4 games in the 1914 World Series. Owner of the Philadelphia A's, Connie Mack, thought his own players threw the game. Nothing was found to be true that this actually happened, but Connie Mack decided to trade and/or sell all the stars from the team, and within 2 years was the worst team in baseball. So here you have a team trying to throw a World Series, and it was never completely proven, but the owner got rid of everybody. Obviously the Black Sox scandal of 1919, 8 players were suspended for life from baseball. Shoeless Joe Jackson, Eddie Cherry, Lefty Williams, Happy Flash, Buck Weaver, Chick Gondel, Fred McMillan, and Swede Raspberry. These guys were all suspended because of the Black Sox scandal. Shoeless Joe Jackson was actually on a Hall of Fame career if he would never got suspended. There's a lot of thoughts that he would have been in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame someday. He was that good. Obviously, that's back in 1919. Let's fast forward 60 years and get some more relevant things that have gone on in baseball. In 1979, Hall of Famers Willie Mays in 1979 and 1983 Mickey Mantle were both suspended for life from baseball due to their involvement in casino promotions. Neither was directly involved in gambling, but they were suspended because they were just working for a casino. They were reinstated in 1985, but it's just the idea back then, that's how serious they took gambling, They suspended, but they reinstated them. 1980, there was a collusion reports that the owners colluded to keep salaries down. Over multiple instances were found that the owners stole money from players. They purposely didn't pay the players what they were worth. This is 1980. So this is right around the time of free agency and stuff. And it said that the owners stole over $400 million from the players. Obviously, since then, the players' union has gotten stronger, and the players make a hell of a lot more money than they did back then. But it's just amazing, again, controversy creates cash. You had this developing baseball, the 70s and stuff and 80s, and what people didn't realize back then that I've researched and found is there were some things that went on that helped these players, kind of like today. We'll get there. 1980, Ferguson Jenkins, Hall of Fame Ferguson Jenkins, wasn't quite in the Hall of Fame yet, was still playing, was banned after Toronto Customs found 3 grams of cocaine, 2.2 grams of hashish, and 1.75 grams of marijuana. Jenkins missed the entire 1980 season, but was reinstated and then retired following the 1987 season. Ferguson Jenkins was into the Hall of Fame in 1991. So here's a guy who was suspended for drugs and was arrested for possession of drugs, but yet still able to make the Hall of Fame. And if I remember correctly, he was one of the ones that liked to scuff the ball too and stuff. Gaylord Perry, another cheater. He cheated. He scuffed the ball. That is cheating. He was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1991. In 1985, the big cocaine scandal in Pittsburgh. For those of you who've never heard of this, I was one of them. In 1995, cocaine scandal, players who testified against drug dealers in Pittsburgh. Dave Parker, Dale Bear, Rod Scurry, Lee Mazzoni, Lee Lacey, John Milner, Willie Aikens, Vida Blue, Enos Campbell, Keith Hernandez, Jeffrey Leonard, Tim Raines, Lonnie Smith, Willie Wilson, all pleaded guilty to misdemeanor drug charges in exchange to testify against a known drug dealer in Pittsburgh for the cocaine they were on. I don't know everything about drug use because personally I don't do drugs, but wouldn't that enhance your performance if you're hopped up on something? So is cocaine the predecessor to performance-enhancing drugs? I don't know. None of these guys are in the Hall of Fame. Tim Raines is on the borderline of making the Hall of Fame. Nobody else on here is really. Dave Parker, not in the Hall of Fame yet. A few experts think it's because of this scandal. We'll see. Something else that I found out about this time is amphetamines were given to soldiers during World War II to help with endurance and mental focus. And they were brought back to sports. So amphetamines were dated back to World War II, the 40s. And players used them with enhanced mental focus. Let's see. Interesting, huh? Enhance your endurance and enhance mental focus. Those are things that are needed to play baseball at a high level. Enhance your endurance. That's a performance-enhancing drug! Quick, ain't I? Steroids are actually dated back to baseball to the early 70s. Tom House, former California Angels pitcher, played from 1971 to 1978, admitted to using steroids that they wouldn't even give to a horse. According to House, steroid use was widespread. It's interesting. When pitchers would get beat, they wouldn't talk about getting beat, they would talk about getting milligrammed. So basically, the opposing pitcher was milligramming steroids more than you were. Interesting. Hall of Fame Mike Smith, Hall of Famer, played from 1972 to 1989, admitted in 2006 he used amphetamines a couple of times. He won the Hall of Fame in 1995. And amphetamines was a performance enhancer, I believe. I believe that's what it was. Help with endurance and mental focus. Yep, that's a performance enhancer. Goose Gossage, Hall of Famer who played from 1972 to 1994, admitted the same in 2013. Gossage said amphetamines were not a PED, but using them were illegal at the time. Amphetamines were illegal at the time, but players were still using them. And these players are in the Hall of Fame. How about that one? Dale Bear admitted to using greenies. Greenies was another form of amphetamines. He played from 1979 through 1984. He said he was supplied by Bill Madlock and Willie Stargell. There's a name that everyone should know. Willie Stargell, Hall of Famer. Joe Milner, who played for the New York Mets, he said he's seen Willie Mays had a powerful liquid amphetamine he called red juice. Another Hall of Famer who used amphetamines. Steroids made MLB's ban list in 1991. However, testing did not begin until 2003. So I guess I would say the steroid era really was 91 to 2003. But from what I understand, steroids have been illegal to possess. They just weren't illegal in baseball. But amphetamines were illegal and players were taking them. So when you take a substance that's going to enhance your performance, illegal or not illegal, how can you be okay with that, but yet players who took steroids when there was no testing and they were illegal, just like amphetamines were illegal, you're going to say these guys aren't Hall of Famers because they took this thing? Well, we think they took it. Interesting. Obviously, in 2005, Jose Canseco's book Juiced blew the fucking lid off the steroid era. Mark McGwire, Rafael Palmeiro, Ivan Rodriguez, Juan Gonzalez, Jason Giambi, all were involved in his book. All were involved in the start of the steroid era. Jose Canseco, Mark McGwire, Jason Giambi. Those three players all played for Tony La Russa, La Douchebag. Ivan Rodriguez and Juan Gonzalez played for Texas Rangers. Through some more research that I had done, I'm going to tell you guys the scenario of this player, and I'm not going to tell you who he is until the end. Okay. His first 4 years in baseball, he hit between 5 and 8 home runs. Okay? The next year, he hit 24. The next year, he hit 5. For the next 5 years, he hit between 2 and 8. The next year, he hit 11. And then the rest of his career, he hit between 2 and 7, which was another 4 years. So in a 15-year career, he hit all but 2 years. 13 of the 15 years, he hit between 2 and 8 home runs. He had 1 year at 24, 1 year at 11. First thing you're going to think is, that guy was doing something. He played from 1982 through 1999. His big home run years were in 87 and 94. Well, in 1987, Major League Baseball in the group hit 2,634 home runs. 400 more than they did in 86, and 500 more than was hit in 88. So in 1986, there was 2,290 home runs hit, 87, 2,600, and 88, 1,900. And this player hit from 8 home runs to 24 home runs. Talking about Hall of Famer Wade Boggs. Another Hall of Famer here. For 4 years of his career, hit between 3 and 13 home runs. In 1993, hit 21, followed by 6, and then hit between 8 and 26. Craig Biggio, who that one is. Not as evident as Wade Boggs. Growing up as a baseball fan, I've been a baseball fan for 30 years. There was always some numbers that were milestones were, a lock as a Hall of Famer. 500 home runs, that was a Hall of Fame lock. 3,000 hits. 300 wins for a pitcher, 3,000 strikeouts. Let's examine the 500 home run club, shall we? Barry Bonds, 762. Okay, everybody's like, well, he took steroids. He never tested positive for taking steroids. He is never admitted to taking steroids. Yes, he was found guilty of lying to a grand jury, but he never was found guilty of taking steroids. Oh, he's not a Hall of Famer because he was involved in the steroid era. Okay. Some baseball fans are like that. Next on the list, A-Rod. We all know A-Rod's story. We'll get more into that in a minute. Next on the list, King Griffey. Is King Griffey Jr. a Hall of Famer? He's never tested positive for steroids. He's never been suspected of taking steroids. Yes, a lot of his injuries, his muscle injuries and nagging injuries, people link to possibly a steroid, but we don't know. Jim Tomey, we don't know. Sammy Sosa, we all know all about the Sammy Sosa stuff. Mark McGwire, we know all about that. Rafael Palmeiro, Manny Ramirez, Albert Pujols, and Gary Sheffield. Those are the 500 home run club that is not currently in the Hall of Fame. Based on what I believe and like about baseball, the only 3 people on that list that should not be in the Hall of Fame currently, Rafael Palmeiro, he did test positive for steroids, one of the first players to test positive. Manny Ramirez, he tested positive twice. A-Rod. I think A-Rod has been fucked over. Yes, he did some things wrong, and yes, he was one of the first players in the Mitchell report that tested positive. But when they did that test, his names weren't supposed to come out. And I think that was all handled stupidly. It wasn't a suspendable offense at the time. Yes, he just got suspended for all of last year based on his involvement with the biogenesis thing. Based on all that, I'll say more. I'm doing a Alex Rodriguez profile. I will tell you my answer if he's a Hall of Famer or not in my profile. 3,000 hit club. Pete Rose. Come on. Reinstate this guy. 25-year ban from baseball for gambling. When you got other players that were arrested for drugs and actually charged with shit that got reinstated. Come on. Pete Rose, reinstated, put him in the Hall of Fame. Next on the list, Derek Jeter. 3,400 hits, just retired. Oh my God, it's Derek Jeter. Can you prove to me, Derek Jeter never did anything performance enhancing? If you think Jeff Bagwell did, you think Barry Bonds did, you think King Griffey Jr. did, you think Jim Thome did. Oh no, Derek Jeter didn't. Why? Prove to me he didn't. You know what? You can't. Derek Jeter should be in the Hall of Fame as much as these other guys. The guys coming up on the 3,000 hit club. A-Rod, he's 61 hits away. He's got a good shot at getting it soon. Ichiro, another good year. He'll be at it. Adrian Beltre, he's about 400 away. Not sure he'll get there. Pujols, he has another 2 or 3 good years. He should be able to get there. Torrey Hunter's next on the list. I don't know if we'll ever see another 3,000 hit member. We'll see, but I don't know. 300 wins. The only 300 win is not in the Hall of Fame is Roger Clemens. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. 3,000 strikeouts. The only 2 members not in the Hall of Fame are Roger Clemens and Kurt Schilling. Next on the list is CC Sabathia, 600 behind. Behind that's AJ Burnett. We may not ever see a pitcher get 3,000 strikeouts again. Major League Baseball, steroid era. There's no one knows for sure when that steroid era began. Obviously, the '94 strike took away the World Series. We knew there were steroids in baseball before that. If you look at home runs per season, if we start in the 70s, is anywhere between 1,100 home runs and 2,000 home runs a year. The peak seasons were 77, 79. 1980 dropped down a couple hundred. We fast forward to the mid-80s. 85 was 2,100. 86 was 2,200. 87, 2,600. 88, 1,900. 89, 1,700. 90, and 1990, 1,700. 91 was almost 2,000. Dropped down to almost 1,800 in 92. 2,000. So you're looking anywhere between 1,700 and 2,200 home runs, roughly, except for a couple seasons. 1986 was the most home runs ever hit in one single season in Major League Baseball, 2,742. Wasn't that the year if I remember correctly, we had a home run race. Yeah. We know the two players in the home run race were pretty much jacked up on steroids. The last few years, since the last year that 1994 was the last year home runs were below 2,000. In 93 they were above 2,000. They haven't been below 2,200 since 1996. It's amazing how many more home runs are hit nowadays than they were. Which that's because the stadiums are smaller and the stadiums are made to hit home runs. Do I believe all the players during the Attitude Era was on steroids? I don't know. No one knows. It doesn't matter what I believe. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what the writers believe. What the writers should do is base their decisions on the Hall of Fame on physical evidence. Okay, you know what? You don't want to put a Jeff Bagwell or a player such as that, Barry Bonds, King Griffey Jr., Roger Clemens. You don't want to put these players in the Hall of Fame because of their tie to steroids. Okay, I get it. It is what it is. You know, as a baseball fan, you got to live with that. But, you put the managers of the steroid era in the Hall of Fame, and you won't put the players in. Really? Are you serious? Okay, you really think Tony La Russa would have 2,728 wins, third all time, if it wasn't for Jose Canseco, Mark McGwire, Jason Giambi, Ryan Franklin, all these players that any player that he ever managed that had anything to do with steroids, Albert Pujols? Do you really think if it wasn't for steroids, Tony La Russa would have that many wins? You cannot tell me that. Same with Joe Torre. You tell me he'd have all his wins if it wasn't for all the players tied to steroids tied to him? You tell me Bobby Cox wouldn't have all his wins if it wasn't for steroids? You know what? I'm a huge Braves fan. I've said it before in videos. But you know what? I agree. These managers should not have been in the Hall of Fame unless you're putting all these players in. Plain and simple. You reward the people who manage the players that were doing steroids. That makes no sense. But you know what it is? It's the bias against the players. Because, okay, the people that managed and the people that ran the locker room, oh, they said they didn't know about the players doing steroids. Oh, bullshit. I call bullshit. They knew. They looked the other way. Because you know why? Controversy creates cash. For the owners, for the players. Here's how you fix all this. Since we can't go back and drug test 20 years ago, let's do this. If they had the numbers, 500 home runs, 3,000 hits, 3,000 strikeouts, 300 wins, 10, 12 time Gold Glove or whatever the case is, those players, unless you tested positive for performance enhancing, unless you've been suspended for performance enhancing drugs. So that wipes out Manny Ramirez, that wipes out A-Rod, that wipes out Rafael Palmeiro. Other than those scenarios, the players should be in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds, King Griffey Jr. If you're going to put the managers in, you got to put the players in. So what I would do, if I was doing the Hall of Fame, my next three classes for the Hall of Fame, 2016, Barry Bonds being in the Hall of Fame, King Griffey Jr., Roger Clemens, and closer Lee Smith, who's way overdue to be in the Hall of Fame. 2017 class would be Jeff Bagwell, Mike Piazza, Ivan Rodriguez, Trevor Hoffman, Billy Wagner. My 2018 class would be Chipper Jones, Omar Vizquel, Jamie Moyer, and Curt Schilling. Yeah, Jamie Moyer didn't cover all the bases when it comes to numbers, but he pitched a long time. He was a quality left-hander for a long time. I think if you put a Roberto Alomar in because of his defense, you can put a Jamie Moyer in because of the years he played in baseball. And you know what? You reinstate Pete Rose, you put him in the Hall of Fame. That's the only fair way to do this. What baseball's doing now, they're going to have their all-time home run leader and their all-time hit leader not in the Hall of Fame. So you're telling me Cal Ripken Jr. played 2,100 games straight and never did anything? You telling me Nolan Ryan was throwing 100 mile an hour at the age of 45 and didn't do anything? I don't know. You don't know. But what I do know is there's players that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame that should be. And the only reason they're not is controversy creates cash for the Major League Baseball owners and Major League Baseball. Do the right thing. Put the guys who deserve it in the Hall of Fame. And reinstate Pete Rose. As always, thanks for watching Robert Sports Show. Have a spiffy night. Robert Sports Show, the YouTube leader in sports channels. And stay tuned for the profile on Alex Rodriguez.